How'd you get there?
And then got the
After 3
email.
weeks, got out of the airport rolling over.
Did your new OT, right? Yes, yes, so never, and just in the future, never worry about that. I guess it's not automatically generating confirmation, and Jeanette wasn't here.
That's right, so you know her first, and you're.
All right, good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good.
Oh, that's good. So my name is Lisa Fiano. I'm one of the ed specialists here, and I'm on the AT team. So I'm going to be with Carol Ann today, presenting with you. And so this is Carol Ann Cormier.
Also one of the ed specialists, and the AT team, and our other team member happens to be here, Nicole Natali. So I think we probably know many or most of you, so it's a delight to have you all here.
I don't know, there's only one familiar face for me here. So what I'm going to ask you guys to do is to take a sticky note that you see around you on the table and take one off, write your name on it, stick it on the back of your device, and actually, because these are new faces to me, it would be great if we could just spend a minute going around the room, finding out what district you're from and what your role is there. That would be helpful to me. Yes, please, that would be great.
I'm Janelle Fennell, I'm a Torrington, and I'm an occupational therapist.
Excellent. Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm Sue Oates, I'm from Torrington, and I'm the teacher of the job.
Excellent.
Cheryl Point from Torrington, and I'm a speech pathologist at the high school.
Okay, great. And that's Nicole.
I'm Nicole.
I'm Jake Joya, and I'm a special ed teacher in Litchfield.
Okay, great.
Hi,
What
Megan.
grade levels do you teach in Litchfield?
7th and 8th grade.
Okay, great.
I'm Megan McKean, and I'm a special education teacher in Litchfield, and I teach 4th through 6th.
Okay.
I'm Catherine. I'm a special education teacher in Litchfield. I teach 9 through 12.
All right, great.
Yes, and Wanda Ward, South Windsor, K-5.
Hi, Wanda.
Hi. Teresa Mayer, South Windsor, K-5.
Karen Johnson, South Windsor, Speech and Language High School.
Kristen Sigurdsson, special ed teacher at Ridgefield High School.
Okay, great. And Carissa, I just saw Carissa on Wednesday too.
Yes. Hi, Kristen.
All right, great. So we are live streaming. We have 1 or 2 people joining us right now, which is great. So that's what that little camera is there for. It's pointing at the screen, so it doesn't see all of you, it just sees us on the screen. So what we're going to be talking about today is assistive technology supports in Chrome. But before we get started with that, we wanted to go over some AT Consortium business, and I'll turn that over to Carol Ann.
So we have bought quite a few new things for the lending library. We did get a Pixel book, some new iPads, one of the larger ones, I think a mini and a regular sized one. We put in for some toys. I'm not sure what's been received yet. One I saw on Facebook where you draw a line with a pen and the little train or truck follows the line you draw. We put in, I think, for some stands. Trying to think what else we put in for. Do you ladies remember?
An iPod Touch or 2, because we've been recommending some tools for phones, but since we can't have, a phone, it's just really hard to just have a phone, so we have a Touch that can emulate an iPhone for some of those supports. We do have an Apple Watch.
Right,
That it's never gone out, but it's sitting there ready for someone to use.
Yeah.
So.
We have a lot of switches, a lot of toys, different cases for iDevices. But we update the lending library on an ongoing basis, so we appreciate any requests for things that you would like to see purchased. Some of the items we have, like mounts for switches and for devices or things like that, might be materials that you don't have readily available in your district. Before you can borrow any items from the lending library, your supervisor has to sign a form. I did not get the list of who has signed the forms yet.
I don't know.
But if you go...
Most sign it, usually.
Yeah, so if you go on, if you try to take something out and it doesn't let you, more than likely that's why. Jeanette Estrada is our secretary that handles all the assistive technology things. But if there's any questions or concerns or suggestions, just email one of us and we can certainly follow through on that. We do have in the PowerPoint a bit.ly for a questionnaire that we're gonna ask you to fill out, and that includes topics for what you'd like to see purchased as well as future topics, because we have 3 more workshops coming up over the year. We don't have those topics picked because we send out queries to the districts as to what they want to see the topics to be. That bit.ly, please share with anybody in your district. So it's not just for you and your directors, but you know, the more input we get, the better it is. It helps us determine again what to purchase and what topics to present. So any questions just in general about the Assistive Tech Consortium before we get started on today's workshop?
I did a quick, what is the password? It's being blocked, so I
Oh, I'm
didn't get
sorry.
that. That's okay.
It's lowercase, correct learning, and then an exclamation
Okay,
mark.
thank you.
And does everybody know how to access that lending library? Your directors get that letter at the beginning of the year, but I'm not sure it's always communicated. Do you know how to do it? Or access it? No? Okay. I think the easiest probably thing is just to email. If you want to get on the lending library, it's part of our SharePoint website, for better or for worse. I think the easiest way to get on it, to be honest, is just email Jeanette, who some of you might have met this morning, who coordinates everything. So maybe Lisa, could you put her email on that survey link?
Yeah.
That way everybody has her email, and you could just say, you know, if you could send me the directions to get on the lending library website, and that will show you our whole inventory and what's in and what's out, and that's the most updated list. We do have a list, like an Excel spreadsheet, but that doesn't always get updated as quickly as the actual lending library does. So send her an email and she'll get you on. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
And then to get the items from the library, we don't ship them out, so you have to come here and pick them up and return them, or connect with one of us, and if we're in the area, you know, we can drop it off or meet you in a parking lot or something like that. I mean, we try to facilitate the process, but we don't ship out the items. So
I've met Pavini Shea at a bar once. She lives in Woodbury, so anybody around the Woodbury area, Woodbury, Southbury, Newtown, and the north west corner, is that west? You know,
Yes.
any of those areas too, we do have coverage there. So
okay, so we're gonna get started.
So we also have 3 people joining us on the live stream, but only Laura Baxter from Ridgefield checked in, so I just want you to let you know that she's out there too.
and New Fairfield is on it too. I know that.
Okay, great, all right.
So everybody has this bit.ly, and it is in the Google Doc.
I did add Jeanette's information, so if you
Great.
refresh, it should show up.
Okay.
So I picked this little computer video today because not so much about kids and the old technology, but also to make the connection for us and all the new technology. Because I feel like as I'm starting to get older now, or I am older, that as these things change, it's not as easy for me to keep up with all these changes and learn all the new things, and we're going to be doing a lot of that today. So I thought this was a cute little video, and it's not very long. Uh-oh. Nope, that's on. I thought we checked all this.
Put this. It is very hipster.
So it is an old computer.
Yes.
From the late 1970s or early 80s. What do you think of it just from looking at it?
Kind of like those
Is that
old
too loud?
televisions that are like very boxy.
Go ahead, turn it on.
Nothing's happening.
So you turn the monitor on. Where else might an on switch be?
remember those days.
How do we do this?
It's in the back.
Oh, I see where it is.
Why does it have to make so much noise?
And there's nothing on the screen.
Doesn't look anything like what we have now.
Apps, games, websites, everything. But this thing right here has nothing.
Go ahead and try to do something on the computer.
Nothing's happening.
How do I do this?
You can't do anything or even type until you hit a reset button that's on the computer.
Reset.
It's very tedious.
It's like pre-flight checks, kind of.
That is too many steps.
How do you like do anything?
Maybe you press shift. Okay, that didn't do anything. Where's the mouse? Where's the mouse?
Everything is just done with the keyboard.
What?
He's too cute.
Okay, now. Okay.
I'm gonna write my name. It doesn't matter, blend.
Are there any programs on it?
You had to type into the keyboard to get it to do anything.
So if I type in games, it returns. Error!
Ah, error.
This computer isn't an error.
How do you go on the internet?
You,
What?
Pretty sure Timothy Berners-Lee didn't create it yet.
There was no internet back then.
What? How do you look up homework?
You gotta go to the library.
Who wants to do that?
So computers back then could only do limited things. For example, you can do math, type documents, and code, but that's about it.
Are you serious? That's mind-blowing.
then it was the peak of technology. Now it seems kind of worthless.
Well, it's kind of good because it was kind of the first technology, but the computers today are kind of better.
Let's do some math. Go ahead, type in a math problem.
2 plus 2. I don't see anything.
When you just type numbers out, the computer doesn't know what you want it to do. It just sees the numbers. You need to give it a command to let it know, hey, I'm about to give you numbers.
Answer the math problem. That doesn't make any sense.
You have to give some sort of command and then type in what you want it to do?
This would be the hardest thing in the world.
So what you need to do is you have to type the word print first.
Oh.
Math has nothing to do with print.
I don't get how you have to put print and nothing prints out. Oh, just print.
Oh, wait.
Return.
Oh! It did it! I feel so proud of myself!
Right. Take 1,000 years. I don't get it. And I also don't get the 1970s.
Person that was using this a long time ago must have a lot of codes right next to them.
I don't want to do this anymore.
So besides the computer, there is something else next to it.
These things.
Do you have any idea what those things are?
Oh, it's a baseball pencil? Power source?
External disk drives.
They're actually used for this.
Hey, a CD. It's a CD case.
A floppy disk.
Oh, floppy disk. It was like a flash drive.
They actually call that a floppy disk.
Oh yeah, it's floppy.
That big computer has no hard drive on it.
That's horrible.
And why is it so big?
So floppy disks were used to store data. Floppy disks can also come with programs on them. So the one you're holding has a version of DOS.
Dots?
Do you know what DOS is?
No. No. No, I think it could be somebody's last name.
Do you want to play a game on the computer?
Yeah. Yes.
Could you grab the floppy disk, please?
Go ahead and put it in.
How do I put this in?
Oh, is the lid shut?
Turn it around. No, other way. No, turn it around.
It doesn't like suck it in?
Shut it.
This isn't working. Do I have to press something?
Print.
Try it.
Disk. Return. It said 0.
I don't like this computer. Really don't.
If the computer was already on and you put in the disk, you gotta turn the computer off and turn it back on.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't it hard to believe that we actually did all
I
that
know.
stuff?
It worked.
Yeah.
Okay, let me help you. No.
And we just thought it was so great, too.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It works at least.
No. I think the game
Big
broke.
game messed up.
Do I have to pay for it? Too much pixelation.
Game over.
It's green, which makes it look ugly. At least it's better than Flappy Bird.
So every computer, even today, has something called a processor inside of it. And depending on how good your processor is how powerful the machine is. You would need at least 850 of those computers to equal the single power of this one small phone.
What? How can they do that? Technology is awesome.
Look at how humanity has used their intellect. Pretty awesome.
So finally, would you want one of these today?
Sorta. It's pretty cool. No, it can do really nothing. I have better things, so why would I want this?
3 decades ago, I would love to have this, but now this is just a footstool.
No.
You wouldn't use it?
No, the games are boring, the stuff is boring, and the whole thing is boring. Thanks for watching this technological episode of Kids React.
Leave a comment of which technology we should react.
So I very vividly remember those computers because my first job when I got out of school was using Print Shop on one of those machines to make cards and stuff with kids who had real significant disabilities over at Oak Hill School. So when we think about how far things have come and how quickly they keep changing, I think it's more of an issue for us. And I know that when I was putting together this workshop today to show you some of the things the Pixel book could do, it took me a long time. I had to watch a lot of tutorials because some of the things, even though they're really cool, wasn't intuitive to me. Whereas these guys, you could see by their comments, they're like ready to touch stuff and why won't it do this? Why can't I talk to it? So they catch on to these things more quickly than we do.
There was no YouTube.
There was what?
There was no YouTube.
No,
right.
Well, and to say to kids, like, I can remember being on the internet years ago when you could just do it if you're a university student. So when I was at UConn and, you know, what it was like being online. So when you say to kids that, you know, there was no internet when I started using computers, they're like, how could that be so? You know, it's just,
What did you do?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So our goals today are to look at assistive technology that's available in Chrome and to look at what's available on the Pixel book. And we're going to look at using different supports on your laptops, on Chromebooks, and the Pixel book. So we're going to start with the Pixel book, and this is just a little overview of the Pixel book that I think can do a better job than I can.
4 years ago, when Google introduced the $1,300 Chromebook Pixel, it was laughable to spend that much money on a Chrome laptop, even if the hardware was both immaculate and powerful. But a lot has changed since then. Take the new Google Pixel Book, for example. It's still expensive, starting at $999, but its hardware and software are significantly different than what Google has offered in the past. For the first time, Google's expensive Chromebook might actually be worth your money. Judged just on its hardware, the Pixel Book would be a no-brainer for almost anyone looking for a thin and light laptop. Like the original Chromebook Pixel, the Pixel Book is a very solidly built aluminum laptop with an excellent keyboard and high-resolution touch display. The computer looks nothing like the Pixel that preceded it. It's not the thinnest and lightest computer out there, but at 2.4 pounds and 10.4 millimeters thin, it's in the ballpark. Much like Apple's MacBook and the Surface Pro, it's the kind of computing device that you can take basically anywhere you want without thinking about it. It's just as nice to use as it looks, too. The Pixelbook's 12.3-inch screen is bright and crisp, and the touch response is solid as well. The computer features a very strong hinge for 360-degree flip features, so you can use the Pixelbook as a tablet or in a more cinematic display mode. But perhaps the most surprising aspect is its keyboard. There's only 0.8 millimeters of travel in the keys, but it feels far more comfortable than the thin butterfly keys on Apple's MacBook lineup. They're soft, but not squishy, and very quiet to type on, and the keyboard is even backlit. The Pixelbook continues the tradition of Google offering the most powerful Chrome hardware around. The base $999 model includes a 7th generation quad-core i5 processor, 8GB of RAM, and 128GB of storage, the most I've ever heard of on a Chromebook. You can step up to an i7 processor, 16GB of RAM, and up to 512GB of storage, which is frankly insane, but all this power should help keep it future-proof. Unfortunately, these specs also take a toll on the battery. Google claims up to 10 hours of usage, but I only got 8 hours in our video playback test. When putting the laptop through my normal work routine, it lasted just over 6 hours. That's fine, I guess, but it's a definite step down from the previous Pixel laptop. Like many new Chromebooks, the Pixelbook can run Android apps. It seems silly that Android and the Google Play Store need this type of hardware to run smoothly, but the Pixelbook runs these apps much better than any other Chromebook I've tried thus far. Before, I looked at Android apps as a curiosity, or a way to run one specific piece of software if all else failed, but on the Pixelbook, Android apps are both more stable and run faster. You're still probably better off using web apps first, particularly for most of Google's services. But if you want to take things offline, there are now plenty of good options. Spotify and Google Play Music ran well, both online and offline. As for movies, Netflix and Google Play Movies both worked when I wanted to watch things away from Wi-Fi. Most games I tried, including Asphalt 8, Alto's Adventure, Badland, and Stranger Things, ran just fine as well. Some developers have even started optimizing their apps for the Pixelbook and its bigger screen. Like several other recent Chromebooks, the Pixelbook supports a pressure and tilt-sensitive stylus. In this case, it's the $99 Pixel Pen. Sadly, it's an additional accessory that's not included, so think hard about whether you'll actually use it much. Google promised extremely low latency when using the pen, but so far it's been a bit of a mixed bag. Some apps, like the beta of the Squid note-taking service, live up to Google's promises. It might be the fastest note-taking app I've used, but I've tried a handful of other drawing and sketching apps, including Art Canvas and Painter, and performance isn't nearly as good. Even Google's own Keep app shows significant lag when I'm writing. Fortunately, the pen is good for other things besides art and taking notes. The Pixelbook pen has a button built in that lets you activate the Google Assistant. You can circle any part of your screen and the Assistant will automatically pull up information based on what you highlighted. It's not terribly hard to confuse the Assistant if you don't choose a clear image, but it's still a fun and useful trick. Speaking of the Google Assistant, the Pixelbook is the first laptop with it built right in. In addition to using the pen, you can say OK Google or just hit a dedicated Assistant button on the keyboard to call it up. If you say OK Google, you can continue speaking and the Assistant will respond out loud. If you type, it'll just show you text responses. If you've used the Assistant on Google Home or a recent Android smartphone, you know exactly what to expect. The ultimate question surrounding the Pixelbook is whether or not you should spend $1,000 on a Chromebook. It is purely on the quality and power of the hardware. It's worth what Google is asking. The combo of design and specs make this laptop a serious contender, but there's the issue of Chrome OS. In the past, we praised the Pixel laptop's hardware, but said that almost no one should actually buy it. But now, I truly believe that there's a substantial part of the market that would be very happy with a Pixelbook as their primary computer. Chrome OS has matured a lot over the years, and stable, responsive Android apps mean you no longer have to live your life only in the browser. For some people, photo and video editors in particular, the Pixelbook won't make sense, but for nearly everyone else, it's a computer that merits some real consideration.
Alright, so that was a really quick overview of what the Pixelbook can do. And you got to see the Pixelbook that we sent passing around. So one of the really neat things about Chrome and using the Pixelbook is Google Assistant. So I'm going to show you that control. So I'm just going to exit out of this for a second because we also have my little Ziggy set up over here. So on the keyboard, right here is the little dedicated Google Assistant, but you can also turn it on so that you can activate that by voice. So you've got two ways to access Google Assistant. And so there's lots of voice control features that you can use using Google Assistant. You can set it up so that it's not just recognizing your voice, but maybe multiple users. The one downside of that is, and it's been a downside for me in terms of me using the Pixelbook, CREC has very strict privacy controls, and so I can't use Google Assistant in my CREC account. We're going to look at it today, but I have to use it through my personal Gmail account. So that's one downside, that if you think this is something that would be helpful to one of your students, you really need to check into what they will allow in terms of privacy restrictions so that you can access this. And I know Nicole has been meeting with Doug Casey, so she might be able to add a little bit more about that.
Yeah, just to add on to that, it's all based on the data privacy law that went into effect in 2016. And it was a pretty strict law, but it's based on, saving kids' privacy online, so that intention is good. But what happened was when they made this law, technically a lot of kids with IEPs and 504s, a lot of the technology that we want to use with them needs to be vetted, and not everything has been vetted. And so they did just create an exception in July for students with IEPs and 504s. The state did it in order to say, okay, there's this narrow exception to the law. If a kid needs access to this technology and there's nothing else available that is vetted, that you can let them use it. This is really new. Most special ed directors didn't even really know about the law to begin with. The ed tech people did, but I don't know if you guys have run into stumbling blocks in your district, but not all special educators did. But it really affected every kid with an IEP and a 504. So now there is an exception. So what Lisa is talking about is the Google Assistant is pretty much one of the only tools, and that's why we wanted to show you. If you have mobility issues, to be able to access your computer, it's great. It's certainly one of the only, it's the only thing that you can do in terms of Chrome and a Chromebook, even though it's expensive, to be able to physically access your computer by using your voice. So if you have a student who needs that, and you've put it into an IEP, you can let them use it. You're just going to have to go through this exception through the state. So it is available, but the issue is you have to make sure you're writing the features down that the student needs in the kid's IEP or 504. Does that make sense? And I know Doug from the state is sending out, he just drafted a letter, he's sending it out to all your directors shortly. So if you do come across, if your tech people are saying, this is not vetted, we can't use this, and not just the Pixel book, but any technology, if they're telling you that, that's coming from a good place, but there is this exception now, and you can get around it if the student needs it to access their IEP and 504. So for you guys to know that, and your directors will be really helpful.
Right, and it'd be interesting, I'd be interested to know too, as an employee of a district, if they're gonna make exceptions for us because we work with kids with disabilities, because that's been one of the huge stumbling blocks for me, is because I'd like to use this in my evaluations, and it's a pain in the neck for me to keep switching from my CREC account, where I have lots of extensions already set up, to my personal account, where I can get into the Chrome store and use Google Assistant. So that's been sort of a pain in the neck, but we're going to look at the features using my personal account today. So, because like Nicole said, there's so many things that you can do with just your voice that it seems a shame to not have the option to do that because of some of the privacy restrictions. So by using that, let's start with just something fun. So here's some of the things that you can do, and I want to give you guys the option to try it. So does somebody want to come up and activate the Google Assistant and ask to play a game? I figured it'd be more fun to come up and do it rather than watch me do it.
Sure, we'll do it.
All right. Yay, Wanda.
Thank you, Wanda.
Caroline,
do you have your charger? Yes. Can I use it for a few minutes?
So let's see if, oops, let's see if it's on. Hey, Google. So what you're going to do is just press the Google Assistant button here, and then ask to play a game.
Hey Google, I'd like to play.
Which one would you like to try?
Oh, it heard me. So now what you can do is you can pick one of the games. I can tell you I already played the trivia game.
Okay, Lucky Trivia.
Game showtime. Okay, okay. I'm going to psych myself up now. Stay calm. Sorry, not you. I'm talking to myself. Welcome to Are You Feeling Lucky? Prepare to enter the chamber of random trivia questions. I'm your Google Assistant, the host of the show. How many contestants do we have?
One.
One contestant. Fabulous. Let's do 5 questions. For this game, I'll call you Seashell. Here we go. It should go by quickly, but if you want to end the game early, just say stop. You seem to have a solid grasp of the English language. What word fits this definition? The praise or applause of an audience. Brouhaha. Plaudits.
Boo ha ha.
But what's
Sorry,
I have
you got it wrong. The answer I was looking for is applauded. Here's question number 2. It's a movie question for you. Who plays Sandy Olsen in the 1978 movie Grease? Olivia Newton-John, Diana Ross, or Stockard Channing?
Olivia Newton-John.
You go, Wanda.
Nailed it. You must read a lot or something.
or
Here's
something.
question number 3. I hope you like people. Which celebrity was born first?
Yes.
Sylvester Stallone,
Stop.
Robin Wright, or Idina Menzel?
Stop.
Are you sure you want to quit?
Yes.
Okay, goodbye.
So Lisa, when you access Hey Google, is it then listening all the time?
It gives you a command and then it listens.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a conversation. Google will say a little something and then
Right.
it'll listen for your answer.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
kind of like Alexa.
Yeah, I don't have Alexa, so
It's great that you can access it by voice though.
Yeah.
And for the
Yeah.
students who
So-
can't type or.
Yeah.
I'm
Do you have to
thinking,
push a button though to start it?
there's a place to put in settings to have it recognize your voice, so you can just say, "Hey Google." I thought I had this set up, but I don't know if something changed since the last time I used it. But you can set it up that you don't have to activate the keyboard at all. You can just say, "Hey Google," and it will come up.
so I do like that it visually shows the text for everything that's going on, just again to reinforce that for literacy, so.
Why can't I get out of this? Oh, okay.
And Lisa, have you needed a headset for it, or it's fine in open air?
It's been fine in open air, although here it's very sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, up until just before we got ready to use this, I wasn't able to use it in eval because I couldn't get permissions to do it. So you can get homework help with it. You can create a shopping list. You can set alarms, look up your emails. You can do all these things just by asking Google to help you with it. So I think that that's pretty powerful for kids who are not good with the keyboard or don't have access to the keyboard. And it's pretty, I find it much more useful than Siri. I'm not a Siri user, even though I'm pretty much, I've always had an iPhone, I have a Mac, I have plenty of iPads, but I really do hate Siri. But I find that Google comes up with much more accurate answers and also catches my speech much more accurately than Siri does. I don't know what your experience has been.
So there was a question, if you say, "Hey Google," will all the other Google devices respond? That's a question. Does anybody else have anything set up for Hey Google?
I'm sure it would though if you had other.
Right,
If they're close enough.
Right,
Yeah.
like Alexa will if you have more than,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't had an opportunity to try that because I've only had the one device, and I have an iPhone, so it doesn't.
But that might be where if you did have, or in a situation where you have multiple ones where you use a headset, a directional, you know what I
Right.
mean, so that it's only listening to what's coming from.
So I'm assuming too, if you can set up personalized commands to turn it on,
Right.
that you could, if that was the case, you could individualize it, so.
Right, because you can change it so it's not just Hey Google, right? Like Alexa, you can change it, so I'm assuming that you can make at least, I don't know how many different types, but
Right.
different commands to start it.
And a lot of these things will go to different, so like if I set a reminder, it automatically goes into my, or make a shopping list, it automatically goes into my Google Keep account. So, that's where I would find my grocery list.
I was gonna ask that, is that the same thing with reminders and that type of thing? It goes
So
to
let's-
keep, yeah,
Let's try one.
which then could be synced to your phone.
Right.
So regardless of if you're an iPhone
Oops.
or an Android, if you have that app,
Mm-hmm.
that's neat.
Oh, I accidentally closed the viewer.
So one of the, people said that they find that Siri gets their voice better. How about here as a group? I, use either Siri or voice typing, and with my voice, I find that voice typing recognizes my voice better.
In Google voice typing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, in Google. So I don't know if people have had similar experiences. I usually try both with kids because sometimes one is better than the other. Any personal experiences with that?
We have a lot of kids that use Cortana. So, I mean, same thing, like the search engines, if they're looking for something, instead of saying, hey Google or hey Siri, they're saying, hey Cortana, because it works with the Windows.
It's Microsoft, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have some that use that. I haven't noticed a significant difference between Cortana and Siri.
Okay.
But we haven't had exposure to the Google Assistant. I don't know if that one would be any better than the two, but Siri and Cortana seem to be very similar to each other.
And also I think Caroline's talking about the voice typing in Google Docs, which you can use regardless. That's my favorite voice recognition if I'm writing lengthy passages.
Yeah. I agree. And like I said, Siri and I don't get along at all, but this has always recognized my voice really well.
So there was a question, Google shopping list, is it a Google or was that the shopping list in Keep?
When I open it up, that's what I was going to show you. So if I say, hey Google, I want to make a grocery list.
What do you want to add?
I need milk, eggs, bread, and dog food.
Okay, I've added milk, eggs, bread, and dog food to your shopping list.
Can you show me my shopping list? Can you show me my shopping list?
Here you go.
So, there it is. And I even get pictures.
Oh.
And is that in Keep?
Actually,
I don't think so.
No,
this looks like, you know why? Because I'm not in my correct,
you're not in your...
I'm not in my correct account. This is just my regular Google
But
Drive.
I love that you get pictures with that.
Yeah.
Can you make it bigger? We can't see them from here.
Oh, hamburger, I see.
Where was this?
It's a nice hamburger.
Yeah, it is a good hamburger.
But for so many of our kids that don't have those literacy skills to be able to do a shopping list like that and get a visual.
Yeah, so you got a picture for milk and hamburger, which I don't, that must have been from before. That must have been when I had
Stovetop stuff.
Stovetop stuff.
Lisa.
There's no picture there.
There's no
That's
picture for
actually an
stovetop.
inside joke in my family about stovetop stuffing, so. Yeah, so you don't get pictures for everything, but some of the generic things that you do.
Now, how could you edit your shopping list? You just,
So if I wanted, if I wanted to take things out of it?
yeah, do you just tell her?
I can just see if I hover over them, the little garbage pail.
So can you do
I
that?
could also just ask the Google Assistant to remove it.
Okay. How come that one didn't separate? Because there's no picture to that, because it's your list. Milk, eggs, bread, and dog food.
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe the way I said it, maybe I should have said add milk, add eggs. Let's go back. I need to add more things to my grocery list.
What do you want to add?
Add soup mix.
Sorry, what do you want to add?
Soup mix.
Sure, here's a Google Play Music station.
Here I was bragging about how
Of course
good
you pick soup mix though to say.
Jeez. It never fails.
Pros and cons.
Oh, could that be any worse?
You see this happening in the classroom?
And then it would happen
Oh,
back.
stop. I can't get it to stop. Okay, so here I was. It never fails when you're presenting. Everything always goes wrong. So we'll have some time to play around with different things later on in the session. So if you want to try some of those other things, you can borrow the Pixel book and try that.
Do you know if it's Bluetooth enabled?
Oh, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Are all Chromebooks? I've been told no, not in our district.
I don't know the answer to that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
I have
either.
kids with hearing aids. If we have
Oh.
FM units, we can play with them differently. If we have straight hearing aids, the newer aids, they're getting all Bluetooth
Yep.
enabled.
Yeah.
So they're buying all Apple products because they instantly link in. However, when they're doing their testing back in district, they're not on a MacBook.
Right,
They're on a Chromebook.
right.
So I've been told we have to buy adapters for the Chromebook and then put in an app. I'm just like suspicious whether it'll work at all.
Yeah,
Because all these are great, but a lot of my students could never hear the voice.
right.
It's not loud enough.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is much, in terms of the accessibility too that I've looked at, this is much more geared toward voice input than other accessibility features. There are things that you can do, vision, you can change the contrast on the back of the screen, you can change the size of the type, but in terms of accessibility for folks who have hearing impairments, I haven't found a lot of information about the Chromebook with regard to that. It doesn't mean it's not out there, I just haven't found it.
But it definitely does have Bluetooth.
Thank you. Well, that helps because if their hearing aids are already connected,
Yeah.
in some ways they're talking about connecting the phones to the to the Chromebooks. So I'm lost at that point.
Yeah.
But that's what our IT people have been saying. If they're already linked into their phones, we can maybe link their phones into their Chromebooks.
But wouldn't it depend on what kind of phone they have?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they have iPhones.
Right, so I don't
So I don't
see-
understand how they're
right.
gonna do that, but that's what our IT people told me last.
Cause, yeah, I don't know how the iPhone would link into a Chromebook.
I don't either.
Except for Bluetooth. That's the only way I can,
So I'm not really sure.
or I guess the USB.
And I haven't tried to connect, I have speakers, I haven't tried to connect them to the
It's,
Pixel book yet.
it's, anything I've tried, it's been an issue. There's
Yeah.
usually a workaround, but it takes a while to figure out what it
Right.
is.
Yeah.
So I was just asking, thank you.
Yeah, for the cost of it, that, you know, that's one of the things that I do really like the Pixel book, and I do see a lot of uses for it, but if you're gonna spend the money,
Right.
on an iPad versus a Pixel book, depending on what your setting is, I think that the iPad has a lot
Have
more
accessibility.
features than the Pixel book does at this moment.
You know, I think it's anything else we talk about, it depends on what task you're doing for what's the best tool. So I always have issues, and it's not, I mean, I love Chromebooks, I love so many of the things, but we can never do all or nothing. So one of the, oh, is that our student mix again? One of the districts I go to, they just got Chromebooks for all the high school kids, which is great, but they took all the iPads away, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, you know? And I mean, literally, even the communication iPads. And they're like, well, they have a Chromebook, and I'm like, but we're talking two totally different tasks here, and you can't take away one tool and say this tool is gonna work for that student. So I mean, I think there's still education to be done with IT, which will be an ongoing issue with IT. But yeah, there's no one tool for all tasks. You know, it goes back to that screwdriver and hammer. What do you need? Type of thing. So yeah.
So when I come back, we'll look at the Pixel pen, but I'm gonna let Caroline talk about math tools.
Okay. So here is the link. I'm sorry, I should have made a bit.ly, but if you refresh, there is a doc for some math supports that I have. And all right.
There was an updated version of that link in the newest email.
Yes,
That was
there.
sent out?
So, the email, the link was fine, the sharing settings were wrong, because I was happy clicking and I shared it before I forgot the sharing settings. So, you people should be able to directly get into the apps, but, and I can't remember where I heard about these apps, but it's the link will take you to the company. All their apps are free, and they just have a lot of manipulatives for younger kids Now, I'm not gonna be able to get them here because I have to sign into my Google account, and sign out of Lisa's. So if you just hold on for a second, please. Oops, that's not what I wanted.
I mean, they all travel, try to see anything that's cool. You don't have the option, you just take a share device and show it up. And then go
So while Caroline's logging in, I'll let you know, Nicole found out that there's a little player activator down here in the little settings bar on your screen, and that's how you turn the music off.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know why. Yeah,
Well,
but
that's
a
part of the
red
problem,
phone.
is you can never get that piece over.
You're gonna put your whole email in us. Text me if you need something. Okay, thanks.
You guys need, oh yeah, please take donuts. And if you need to borrow anything today, let us know. We can set you up, hook you up right here. Jeanette is here today. So while you're here, if you need any equipment, go shopping.
So Susan Nicholas shared that if multiple students need to use Google Voice typing, that they need to speak with a close conversational voice and a microphone.
You know
So,
how I get into my apps?
see that little, yeah, right there.
It doesn't have all of mine.
Oh, they should pop up. See the little arrow too on the top of your bookmark bar?
That's not what I wanted. Oh, here we go. No.
How about over here?
Sometimes they take a while to populate.
So this is a Chrome app?
They're all Chrome apps.
Okay.
Is it quick as this difficult my computer?
It might be.
So sorry about that. So I don't know.
So why don't you stand up and take a little break while we're getting this all figured out. So that clock is a little bit slow. It's actually 10 o'clock. So why don't you take like a 10-minute break while we're getting this all squared away.
She just started working for us. December or January of last year. Yeah, and she's Kathy Booth. Kathy's the secretary of high school. So she works out there.
No, we're just taking a little break. So. What is the link?
I'm not a medical report. We lost like 2 minutes. So like the big point. Oh, right, nobody's gonna be there. So we don't have it set up. We can ask Nicole, because she's the one that comes out, who's, if she's, because it used to be also after she did a vow, or something or other, she would go down and she'd say, this is what I do. And she's the one that did the vow, right, but I don't know if she's still doing that or not. Or if that, once the avow's been done and put in the PPT, if that becomes our, correct. And then I can't see anything. I don't assume anything, because at one point, no, seriously, at one point, They told Maureen, as a speech pathologist, she had to do
Do you have
all
an
these
example?
and for kids, she didn't even say that. Right, and that's wrong. And some but what we had come away with in those words was make it the team. Well, Lisa, myself, and Jen, the three of us basically had our finger in all of it. And we said we worked a whole lot. She had worked at she knew that. She knew all the different things, and she knew AT, and she like learning.
But I hope you find out how she did all that.
Jen could do all that stuff. And like basically, we just went on YouTube and stuff. One of my
Me too, and I keep on saying I'm gonna stick like address label and
we always had
everything.
staff.
But have him to do it, like it's on here.
It's either Joan or Liz. Right now it's Liz, Weinberg.
Switched
But
over.
they wanted to do original HR, not in Liz's classes. It's like, I kind of gathered.
That was the right one, that's the
I
thing.
sat in a meeting with her yesterday.
Like that was the right one.
No, I mean that, this one.
Yeah, because the monitor went off when I unplugged it.
Overall, I can't speak to, and you want her to memorize her fast. I'm like, I just started laughing and I was like, and I said, I'm sorry. I said, but my mind just jumped to it. She needs calculator, she needs charts,
So it,
she
you know, it
needs to
should have been
see.
such a
She
change in
needs
the
an
monitor
assistant
this
tech.
way.
That's all exists already, but she needs to see it correct as many times as possible. She doesn't need to suffer through trying to figure it out. She's very sweet, very kind. Like one of the but she tried to invite me to that PPT. She told me her Wi-Fi in her room is somehow some days it works and some days it doesn't. I never got but she's right up in the second floor.
Anything happening?
But I never got finally I got a word that said
And there's a remote that changes the
seriously, that's all I
display.
got.
Because now I can see it.
Oh, yeah.
She said, I don't know, my Wi-Fi's Google Assistant. But I don't think you'd ever do it.
The only thing is, I wonder because
Do you want me to go back into mine and try and get a hold of Jonathan?
Well,
Well,
if
if
they
it was
have
my thing,
websites,
yeah.
then we might demo them on the
Okay.
website.
I think I'm more interested in some of the portable handhelds that you can walk around and talk into. Or see things from
you know who's really fun to watch is Spencer. So, he says all this stuff, and then when you ask him questions, he has this like so-and-so. It's like, his new thing is bad and bad.
Oh, it's awesome. That's really?
And he says that's in the staff. He like wants to like, he's so with him or something, like, you know, is like they want him to like, reconcile.
Right, but they think it's funny.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they reinforce what's his name.
Sorry, guys. It's one of the reasons why we all love technology.
It's supposed to be in Texas.
So now this stuff is showing up.
You know?
Is this what you're
Okay,
looking
yeah,
for?
two,
Okay.
yeah, two of them definitely.
Okay. Alright. Is everybody back? Almost.
Oh, now they're slowly showing up. So math manipulatives for kids, is always something that's fun. I'm not a math person, so truthfully, I don't know why kids do geo boards, but I think they're kind of cool. They're, oh, here we go. We're getting more. So we'll start with geo boards. Maybe. Yes. So again, I work a lot with kids who have physical issues, you know, fine motor issues, things like that. So for them to use manipulatives, the actual physical manipulatives can sometimes be difficult. So I thought this was cool with the geo boards. So, you know, just as you would with a geo board, you can bring your elastic to different places and make different shapes. It's really easy to use. You don't have to like read any directions or things like that. So again, for connecting the shapes and seeing how shapes connect, I don't know, are any of your classes still using geo boards with the younger kids? Yeah. So again, and also behaviorally, you can't snap these elastics and hit people, and they don't go all over the place. So for some kids, I could see it being beneficial. A lot of my kids too, they just get sucked in by the technology, and whether that's good or bad, we can debate it. But if I can do a similar task on the computer or on the iPad or things like that, then fine. I don't even know why you got into here.
Because it's linking all the data from your...
Oh, from all of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a few too many apps and extensions. So a lot of times when I'm observing kids, I may try to replicate the same or pretty close to the same activity using technology and hopefully suck the kids in. So, these are your number rods right here. And I think this, you know, I see this being used a lot when kids are doing their calendar where they do their 10 pieces and they add them up until they get the 10 rods. And these, I haven't played with this one as much as I've played with the others. So, but taking what they're already doing and making manipulatives out of them. And it's free. You can change the color of your rods so you can have, you know, the ones be one color, the twos be another color. You can break them into pieces so you can see how I have the 10 here and they add up and they go into there. So I can break them into 10s. If I click on one, I could break that into single ones. So all the things that kids would be doing fine motor-wise, manipulatives, you can do those. On the computer, you can do them. I'm pretty sure they have all the same apps too, on an iDevice, but here on the Chromebook. A lot of the districts I go to are going Chrome, so anything that I can get on the, you know, on the Chromebook that kids could use can be beneficial, so. The others have not shown up yet. Oh, money pieces. This one I was using with a student and he really liked it. Here we go. So my money pieces here. If I do, let me see if I do. There's a way that you can come, oh, I wanted this one, yeah. So I have my dollar and I want to see what it would look like in pennies. And it converts it for me. So I have my pennies and I want to see what that will look like in quarters. Things like that. So again, you can use some for math, you can use it for grouping. You don't have to worry about having that money around. A lot of the play money looks pretty big, but it ends up under the table anyways because, you know, or they could be good throwing objects. So looking at what's preventing a kid from using the actual manipulative, is it, you know, motor issues, behavioral issues, interest issues, and how can we kind of avoid those so that we're getting at the concept, because we're using the manipulatives to get at a concept. So what type of manipulatives we use, to me, doesn't really matter as long as the kid's learning the concept. And that one's for free. And now we're confirming Pinterest. So with the number of apps I have, this could take forever. Pattern shape was another one that you could work on, like algebraic concepts, part whole, fractions. So if I have a shape, I can rotate it, which visually, I have a really tough time rotating shapes in my head. That one doesn't want to rotate. Maybe I have to drag it. No.
Do you have to slide that rotation wheel around?
Oh, Lisa, thank you. Yeah. So I was observing a class the other day, and they're rotating, two triangles always make a square if they're the same shape. I'm like, that's a novel concept to me. I never realized that. So to figure out the area, you could take like the area of the square, you know, the length times the height, multiply it, and then divide by 2. And I'm like, dang, I wish I had known that. And, you know, trying to do all these, like, you know, this one, is it a Pythagorean theory or whatever? But this here, and I can't remember, it was a video, it was actually a video on one of those links. Oh, it was a con video. And so it's so funny because the student and I are both like sitting there watching this video, and the guy said that, and we're like, wow. I'm like, we both learned something today. But using these manipulatives for the students just makes it really easy to figure out that stuff. And again, if you have somebody like Lisa sitting next to you telling you how to rotate stuff, but you know, making the pictures, and I see these boards in a lot of the classrooms. I'm obviously really bad at this whole visual spatial thing and how you make the pictures. But for a lot of our kids to be able to do that and, you know, then tie that into, you know, geography concepts and stuff like that, if we look at the Common Core, and, you know, these are our prereqs for later on. But I think even the older kids, if they don't have that good visual map in their head, which I don't, being able to use these manipulatives can really be helpful. So,
which one is this again?
This
Caroline?
one is, hold on please, because visually I know pattern shapes, but I don't know the name of it. There was one more in the handout. Can you just put
let me just,
in the handout, anybody, can you tell me what the other one was?
fractions, tinker, CAD, money pieces, number pieces, pattern
geoboard.
shapes,
Yep, we did
geoboard.
those. Fractions is not showing up.
And then you have Khan Academy, GeoBra, Wow
Yeah.
Math, and Yay Math.
Okay. So let me just get that. So all the others, those are videos. Khan Academy, you all know. I'm assuming they just got additional funding to supply more videos. And another topic, I just saw it on the news. What's the name of this PowerPoint?
Assistive Technology Supports for Chrome. So we had some comments from the folks who are live streaming about some of the Google extensions that Caroline is showing hasn't been approved by their district. But again, we talked about the what Nicole had been talking to Doug Casey, saying if you have a student with an IEP, you can get an exception for those things.
So all those extensions I just showed are also websites.
Okay.
So if you, and if you go to the company website, it has links to the Chrome store as well as to the websites.
So you don't need to give up any private information if you're using your website.
Which you're not giving up any private information if you're using the app either, so I don't get that, but yes, but they're also all websites. Oh, did you talk about the pen at all?
I'm gonna do that when you're all set.
Okay. So the fractions is the only one that did not show up on my drive. But visually you can see the manipulatives and things like that and how it would work. And again, I think, you know, I've seen a lot of places where they have the pizza puzzle, fraction game, so similar, but to have that visual motor involved, just to really, for the kids to get that concept, can make a huge difference for them, so. And Tinkercad, that web did not show up. This I have not played with. So I'll have to play with it. But what I think is really cool, we don't have a 3D printer where I'm at, but like how cool for kids if you have. Does anybody have 3D printers now?
I think our tech department,
Okay.
They do have one.
Okay, I know actually a lot of libraries now have maker spaces with like Farmington has one where they have the 3D printer in there and stuff like that. But I think for a lot of our kids, again, getting that hands-on with the STEM and everything else, that this could be a really, really cool app for them. That they, like me, don't have that good visual in their head. They, you know, they need that manipulation. But how cool to like be able to design stuff easily with this and then have it printed out for the students.
It's like a blow their mind watching it get printed out.
Yeah, oh, I love watching 3D printers. It's mesmerizing, so, yeah.
Just teaching volume, what volume is.
Yeah,
They don't get that.
right. Neither do I. Yeah, it's a geography was not a strength of mine because you need to have a really good, just the whole visual, and to be able to translate it and everything else, yeah. So, Khan Academy, if you haven't explored it, are people using Khan Academy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I get a lot of good feedback from my middle school and high school kids that I try Khan Academy with. And again, that when we're doing the area of the triangle, that was with a middle school kid. And she just said, you know, I like this because I can pause it anytime. So I can think about it before they go on. And I can't tell my teacher, no, stop talking so I can think about it. Most of the kids I talk to say if they could know for like homework which video would be best for them, then that would really help them because they wouldn't have to go to their parents to ask them questions because their parents don't usually know, which is true. I mean, I wouldn't know. I'd have to Google it. But that way they would know too when they went to do their homework, they would be less anxious because they would know immediately where they could go get support. And I think of a lot of behavioral issues with a lot of my students around homework isn't necessarily because they don't want to do it. It's because of the anxiety because they're afraid they won't know how to do it. So using supports like that. A couple of schools I go to, the teachers in math, I don't know about the other areas, automatically will put the link or will show what Khan Academy video goes with each lesson, which I just think is a great idea. And I think it's great for parents too, because most of the parents, if the kids go for help, you know, they can't do that. They're doing a lot more in functional life skills on Khan Academy, not for more involved kids, but like personal finances and things like that. And they do add to it all the time because they've been pretty lucky and they've gotten some decent federal funding. but they're having science and history. And I think they're, the new one they just got funding for, I think was around civics. So, which is a hot topic right now.
Yeah, yesterday they had like a 1 hour PD and it was all on Khan Academy, but they had like stuff for AP US history
Yes.
and
Yep.
chemistry and things that you wouldn't even think of.
They have a huge amount. They also have SAT prep
Yep.
and different testing prep and things like that. So I would suggest again with your kids, logging them, setting up an account for them. Because then it will also collect data on where they are, which videos they've watched and things like that. So as a teacher, you can set up a classroom and set up each one of your kids in that classroom.
And some of the, I don't know how you do it, but some of the schools you can link with, I don't know that it's through Naviance or if it's through SAT, but Khan Academy will then go through and determine which videos you need to watch. They link the weaknesses on the testing to that.
Wow.
And I said something to my son, because I know we were talking about it at school yesterday, he's like, mine did that like 3 years ago. So it's not something that's new, it's just different schools are in different places where they've connected it.
Okay, that's great to know. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
that
the
it could,
SAT's up.
Okay.
Especially where everybody's giving them now, you know, it's a standard state test.
Yes, right, right. Wow. I wish we had this stuff when I was going to school. So the handout, I just included some of the resources for video. So the GeoGebra, again, that's interactive models for problems. So again, for a lot of kids, having that interactiveness just makes a huge difference. The WOW map is similar to Khan, and this gentleman has made those videos, and the Yay math, or some other resources. So in the handout that you have the link to, I give you the resource for where I got these different resources. I did not find them on my own. It was, I don't know, either Quiet or a listserv or something else that somebody had developed math resources, and I kind of compiled some. But especially those interactive ones I first showed you, a lot of the elementary school kids I work with, and a lot of the high school kids that are working on money skills that, you know, are a little more involved. They really like them. One of the kids I was evaluating, it was at a high school, I was chatting with his teacher, and the whole time he's playing with the money app, and he looked over to his teacher and he's like, whatever his teacher's name was, look, you know what, I've got 100 pennies in that dollar. And he's like experimenting and clicking, and he's the whole time he's telling the teacher what it was, and the teacher's like, he never does that with the physical manipulatives, because really to count out the 100 pennies for that dollar is really hard to do, and to keep track and everything else. So yeah, so hopefully some of those will be helpful for you.
All right, great. So we're going to switch back to the Pixel Book for a minute before we get into these other Chrome extensions. The other thing that wasn't on the video that they didn't, when we did the overview about the Pixel Book, is when and if you get a Pixel Book, there's information about how to get this little holder for the pen. And I really do like it. They just send it to you in the mail. They don't charge you. It's free. And I really do like it. And this is one of the advantages for this device over an iPad, because one of the things that drives me crazy about the Apple Pencil, though I love to use it, is that to find a way to hold it and keep it near your device is really a pain in the neck and involves extra money. Whereas this little holder that comes on the Pixel Book is very secure, and they'll just send it to you. So you just peel back a little piece of sticker and stick it right onto your device. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and look at some of the other features on the Pixel Book, and then we'll come back and take a look at some of these Chrome extensions. Luckily, I don't need to log out now. All right, so what you're seeing here is the screen of the Pixel Book, and what I just wanted to show you were some of the accessibility features. I don't have them all turned on, but I wanted to show you what some of the features are that you can just turn on and off. So you have Chrome Voice, so you can have spoken speech feedback. You can enable select to speak, so if you want to select certain text to have read aloud, you can do that. You can also adjust the text-to-speech voice settings. And then in terms of the display, you can use high contrast mode and a full screen magnifier. So a lot of these things I don't want to turn on because it really makes it hard for me not having good spatial relations to move around. But you can set a custom zoom level. You can also have a docked zoom level. And you can change your screen resolution and your text size. You can also control how your keyboard works. So if you want your keys to be sticky, or if you want to use the on-screen keyboard, you can have dictation, highlight the object on the keyboard focus when it changes, so you can change where your cursor looks. You can also make some changes to the mouse. And you can also have the audio be mono audio. And then if you want additional features, there are some additional things that you have to get through the Chrome store. So those are all in your settings. And so what I want to also show you are some of the pen features. So on the bottom of the screen, is a little icon for the pen. So if I open up that pen, that shows me all the things that I can do with the Pixel pen. So I can capture a region of the screen, I can do a whole screen capture, I can create a note, I can activate Google Assistant, I can use a laser pointer, and I can also set it to be a magnifying glass. So I'm going to do a little screen capture. Just want to change to a different website. So here I captured the whole screen, and I can save this to the clipboard, and then I can annotate it. Let me do that again. So I did a little screen capture, and now if I want, it will open it up for me so that I can annotate that if I want. So I can highlight, I can make little notes if I want.
Would you mind zooming out just so we can see that?
Oops, sorry.
Thank you.
I forget that you can't see what I see. Okay, so is that better?
Yes, thank you.
That's my little screen capture there. So those are all my tools. I have an eraser, I have a pen, a marker, a highlighter. Just I can add a grid over it if I want. So I put a grid over my whole screenshot, and then this all gets saved. Again, I think this is what goes right into my Google Keep. There it is again. There's my other screenshot. So let's look at something else that we can do with that. Sorry. So I can create a note, and again, this comes right from my Google Keep. Okay. Should have written in it darker. I can also turn on Google Assistant. So if I wanted to look up some additional information using just my pen, I'm just going to circle this little picture here. Oops. Let me try that again. Okay, so it told me when I circled that section of text, it told me who Cory Booker is. It would allow me to go further, to go to Google. I can create an event. It gave me a little more information about what actually happened. It gives me information about James Clapper, what his role is. So it allows me to just circle a section of text on the screen and activate Google Assistant to call up more information about that. And then I can just make it a laser pointer. So if I wanted to present from here, we don't have the adapter that allows you to do that. But if I wanted to focus on a part of the screen, I have a laser pointer. I can turn it into a magnifying glass. So if I want to get closer to the screen, I can use the pen to do that. That's helpful for me because then I don't have to make the screen larger. I can just bring the text closer to me in a certain part of the screen. And I think you can also enter information. So if I wanted to enter information on the screen, like in the search bar, here's my keyboard button. You can use your own handwriting to enter information, and I just am not doing a good job of this. Oh, here we go. So if I want, I could search for things using my handwriting. It should have gone up there. So you see how that popped up there? You might not have been able to see that. But if I want to use my handwriting instead of the keyboard, I can use the Google Pen and just search, write down information, and a word prediction will pop up and allow me to search that way. So those are some of the things that you can do with the Google Pixel Pen. Any questions about any of those? Any of those things? And when we break into small groups, and if you want to try those, you can certainly give them a try.
So I actually have a question.
Yep.
Are there, I guess it would be a tablet or whatever that would plug into Chrome in lieu of getting the Pixel if they already have a Chromebook? Something, anything like that?
Some of the other Chromebooks are touch enabled, like they have touch screens and you can write on the keypad. But I don't know of anything that you can plug in to use the Pixel Pen. I think the Pixel Pen is just for the Pixel book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, like, Lisa and I both have, like, the Acer touchscreen Chromebook, and I actually never use my other Chromebook anymore. And it also has that flip screen where you can fold it and use it kind of like a tablet. So it obviously does not have all the features that a tablet does because it's a Chromebook. But I find for a lot of my students, again, that might have fine motor issues, that the touchscreen just works a lot better, especially for when we've gotten used to iDevices. And when I first got my Chromebook, and even now on my laptop, there's still times I'll reach out to touch something, it's like, oh, you know, I can't do that on here. But it takes pretty decent fine motor to be able to do a trackpad. And for some of my students, especially when they're selecting and highlighting, that's really hard for them to do with a trackpad. So
and
they
for that
prefer.
one, you can't use the pen though, right?
No, it's your finger.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the pen goes with this
And
particular
actually, you know
model.
what? I haven't tried any of my styluses, so that's a good question. But most of the kids I work with prefer their finger to a stylus, so it hasn't been an issue. And when I give them a choice, even between like using a laptop or the Chromebook with the touchscreen, 99% of them pick the touchscreen.
Yeah.
And they're cheap. They're what, like $300 or under.
Right.
I'm actually thinking of a particular student who couldn't put a lot of pressure down as she
Okay.
was writing, so that we were looking for
But
an
she could do a
alternative.
Chrome, she could do a
Yeah,
stylus?
that's what the parents were advocating for, but,
Because to hold a stylus
yeah,
takes
it takes
a
energy.
decent
Yeah, but I think
amount
it was
of
the
pressure, though.
of writing down. This was just something I popped in for and left.
Uh-huh.
But then I've been thinking about it.
So for something like that, though,
So-
does she have speech?
No, she's actually, she was a 504 student,
Uh-huh.
so, she
No,
just
I
gets-
don't mean speech services, I'm
Oh.
sorry. Does she have verbal
no,
speech?
she had not, she didn't have any AT at that time. And
Because
the
if,
team was asking for. Yeah, she can speak.
thank you,
sorry.
I worded
Yeah,
that
it's
wrong,
okay.
thanks Karen. Then I would immediately go to something like voice typing, and how is she doing with that? And
Yeah, I think they were just worried about taking notes in class, but I don't wanna waste everyone's time, it was just a question I had.
So I've actually used, and granted, I have to do a lot of editing, but by the end of this period, you'll find out about all the many problems I have. One is note-taking and auditory processing. So when I do webinars, or when I go to conferences, I try to sit up front, and I turn on voice typing to record the speaker's voice, and then turn it on and off. Or the webinars, I have two screens open, and I'll have one where I'll turn on voice typing when the people are talking like really fast and I just can't follow, and one of those where they don't give you the notes ahead of time, which makes it very difficult. And then I'll go back and I'll edit it. Granted, I only do it for the high priority ones because it takes a long time to edit, but it's just a personal tool that with voice typing I've found to at least decrease my anxiety for not being able to keep up with the notes.
There's also a program, and I'll get you the name of it because I can't think of it off the top of my head, that you can import PowerPoint slides. So I know a lot of teachers use PowerPoint slides, and you can turn on a recorder, and the recorder transcribes what the speaker is saying. And you can also go back and then color code that transcription to, things that you think are really important, or things that have to do with a certain part of the topic, so that you don't have to do any typing at all. You can add information, so it's got the slide on one side, all in one screen, and then on the other side, it's recording and transcribing what the speaker is saying at the same time. And I'll get you the name.
I can't remember the name of it, yes.
I have it on my computer, but I can't think of the name of it. And I've used it a couple of times, and it's a really cool program.
Yeah,
I
I'll
think.
have to,
Yeah, one of the people that make that, and we can maybe find a demo of it, people that make it recommend that when you're using it, you just pay attention to the speaker and don't do anything. But for me, I found it was helpful because it does give you a space where not only it's transcribing the section of what the speaker is saying, but I like to add my own notes in real time. That was helpful to me, so that's another option.
So there are a couple of comments. One said that the pen is expensive.
Yes, it's $100.
It's $99. So just be aware that it does not come with the Pixelbook. The Apple Pen's expensive too.
Mm-hmm.
And then Laura commented that you could use a cuff to wrap with the stylus to wrap it around her wrist if pressure's the issue, but I think it was a different pressure than I was thinking. But I'm sure you have seen those cuffs. And we also have, she could use a note taker pen, like LiveScribe or something like that. So,
Yeah.
which I use LiveScribe personally also to decrease that anxiety around note taking. And people are familiar with the LiveScribe pens? Yeah, so we have them here too if you want to borrow them and trial them with your students.
So it is expensive. I like it. I like being able to write and screen capture and annotate and all those things. So like everything we're talking about today, depending on what the student's needs are, you really have to make a match and use your decision-making process to figure out what features are absolutely critical for the student and which ones maybe they can get away with not having. And because unfortunately no one device solves all the issues.
Right. So I do think it's a critical point that you let everybody know how expensive the pens are, because the Apple Pen literally looks like a piece of white nothing.
Yes.
And, and so I've had equipment that Lisa and I were just saying, like, I still don't have my address labels on every piece of equipment I have that you know, we're always afraid about leaving it somewhere. And I left something somewhere and went back, and I had already reordered it. It was like $300, and somebody didn't know what it was and put it in a drawer. So things like those pens that really, they don't look like anything. Make sure that everybody knows how much money they are, including the student, and that there's a very secure way of attaching it to whatever you're using. Because you lost your Apple Pencil, right?
I lost my Apple Pencil to my dog, who thought it was a very delicious thing to chew on.
Right, I could see that.
Yeah, and totally destroyed it. Because I had, what I had for my pencil for my iPad Pro was I had a little magnetic sleeve so that it would stick to the back of the iPad, but I guess it fell off or something, and it must have smelled a lot like me because my dog decided while I wasn't home to chew up my Apple Pencil, which was very upsetting. All right, so let's take a look at some of these extensions. We're going to show you some new features in Snap and Read and Co-Writer, and then we're going to give you guys an opportunity to form some expert groups. Is there anything on there that sounds familiar or that you're really good users of? Because if not, we can lead you through them. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with Co-Writer and Snap and Read, and I can show you Equatio as well. And then Caroline, if there's anything you want to jump in and show. I'm going to need to use your
Co-Writer?
Yeah, I see it.
No, I don't know my password. It's the same password as you have, I think.
If you're in Chrome, it should remember it, shouldn't it?
Yeah, my Chrome's been having an issue.
Let me see if I can log in under mine. No. Right, I might have to log out then.
Log out.
Unless there's something else that you want to show. Do you want to show Mercury Reader or?
No, because truthfully, I use Read and Write for Chrome for my text reader. So does everybody here, you all have the free Read and Write for Google Chrome as a teacher?
It's available to us.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So if you haven't downloaded it, download it because it's well worth it. So Lisa just asked me to show Mercury Reader, and I'm like, I can't because truthfully, once I got Read and Write for Chrome, that's all I use now as a text reader because I like the screenshot reader, and it's just easy for me to use. So I apologize for that.
So how many people have Read and Write for Google Chrome as a free teacher account? Okay, so a couple people. So can I, do you guys remember the process to add people, to help people get that free as a teacher? Would you be able to walk people through that?
Our system was able to, we were able to broker and get it for our district, so.
Okay.
Yeah, South Windsor, all the students have it, which is, you are access to it. If you can't find the link, you just Google free Read and Write for Google Chrome for teachers, and it takes you right to the page where you sign up, and then the company gives you a login. So but your district has it. I know a couple of the districts of the people that are online, the whole district has it. And a few other districts I go to, the whole district, like Northampton, Mass, the whole district has it. So purchasing a district-wide license, the more you, obviously the bigger the district, the cheaper it gets. But it's been really successful, I think, a tool just for regular ed kids, for all kids. So I love it when districts purchase a district-wide license only because then all kids are using the same tools. So.
Right, so while my extensions are populating here, if you want to go to the Chrome store, if you don't already have it, you can go to the Chrome store and look for Read and Write for Google Chrome and add that to your extensions. And then once you open it for the first time, there's a little question mark that you click on, and that will tell you how you can get that for free. So if you want to do that right now while my extensions are populating, you can certainly go ahead and do that. The first two that I'm going to show you, unfortunately, are not free. I'm going to show you Snap and Read from Don Johnston and Co-Writer from Don Johnston. Another free one that we are going to look at is Equatio, so that's another one that if you want to look that up and add that to your device, you can do that. Equatio and Read and Write for Google Chrome are both from Text Help, thank you. And they will both give you a free account. So Read and Write for Google Chrome is your reading and writing tool, and then Equatio is your math tool, and we're going to look at that. And they're both things are really great. Of course, it's going to take forever for these all to come up. And it might be just easier for me to show you on here until these come up. So up on the top of my bar here, you can see Read and Write for Google Chrome is already up on my screen. And right next to it, so Read and Write for Google Chrome is a little purple puzzle piece, and right next to it is the icon for Snap and Read, which is like a crosshair. So I'm going to turn that on. Fudge. I'm in my wrong account. So that's not going to be an easier way to go. All right. So the symbol for Equatio is up, so we're going to start with Equatio. So again, Equatio is the free extension that you can get for math. So what that allows you to do is it allows kids to enter information, equations. Wait, maybe I need to open a Google Doc. All right, let's see if we can get this stuff to work now. All right, so here is my Equatio toolbar at the bottom of the screen. And so I am not a math person, but one of the things that I do like about this is that it allows you to enter math. You can use your own handwriting. You can enter equations by voice. You can also have this on your phone. You can also have screenshots read. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click on Edit Math. And hopefully this will start up. This computer is being very fussy. So if you're really good at math and you're just not good at using the keyboard, they also have a graph editor, they have a latex editor, and an equation editor. So I'm just going to handwrite a problem here. And you can see that it recognizes my handwriting and converts it into text. I just made a couple corrections there because it was. So if I like the way that looks, I just click on Insert Math, and it puts it right into my Google Doc. So I used this with a student who had a really difficult time lining up numbers. So when he was doing algebraic equations and he had to line up from one side to the other, it was a real struggle for him. But he was able to do this on the keyboard because he had the, I don't know if you can see it, but there's grid paper here. And he was able to use this. He was also able to put in equations using his voice. So if I clear this out here, (5x plus 17 equals 25). So you can see that I didn't have to write anything. I could just enter that into the, using my voice, and it'll put it right up on the screen. And again, if I'm happy with it, I can just put it right up into my document. And I can move these things around. So if I don't like where they are, I can just put them somewhere else. So there's all kinds of operators that you can add in here, and symbols, and functions. There's even Greek letters. So there is a way to do complex chemistry equations on here, but I would recommend, if that's something that a student needs to do, that you watch, there's video tutorials that you can watch with all of these things. Because it's doable and it's very user-friendly, but you have to understand what you're telling the computer to do if you want to get the right information out. So the good thing is that if you go to YouTube or if you go to the Text Help website, there's lots of videos on how to use the various features of this tool. So not only do I think this is a great tool for students to have access to, but I think this is a great thing for teachers too, because they can create worksheets and share them through their Google accounts so that kids can access the work that students need to do. All right, any questions about that I can hopefully answer? If not, we'll take a look at another tool. So that's Equatio, and again, that's a free tool that you can get for you guys as teachers. So now let's see if we can get Snap and Read to work. Oh boy, I don't think I'm going to be able to log in on this device. If I can't, I'll show you AutoDraw. So it looks like it's starting up here. You can see that it's trying to turn on because it's, there it goes. Once it turns purple, it should be all set and we should be ready to go. Does anybody use Co-Writer Universal?
We have students that used to. I don't know right now, for some in different class group, but it was on the computers in all our computer labs and in our libraries.
So one of the nice things about this is that it allows you to create, one of the things that I like this over Read and Write for Google Chrome is that it allows you to create topic dictionaries, and it's added some new features in that you can create a topic right from a page that you're working on, or you can create a topic from selected text. So if I started typing, I have a horse and he's a rare breed. That's hard to say. So if I wanted to create a topic dictionary from the text that's here on my screen, it should pop up. Unless none of this is going to work. One of the frustrating things for us when we do this is that everything works on our computer, but it doesn't always work here at CREC when we try and log in. I don't understand what is going on here. Oh, it's there.
So one of the things I like about co-writer that we've discussed is the topic dictionary. And I wish Read and Write would get that. So for a lot of kids that have real difficulty with phonemic skills, I find their phonetic recognition to be better, and the topic dictionary for those kids that either have a particular interest or if we're writing about a specific topic, that the words will pop up quicker than they do in Read and Write, or Read and Write won't find them at all because of the spelling issues. So I love that districts now are going district-wide with Read and Write, because at least it gives that option. But just like every other tool we've talked about, it might not be the correct tool for all kids.
I don't know what the holdup is here. And I want to be able to show it to you because there are some cool things that they've added. So
Laura said try hitting the refresh button on your page.
Thanks, Laura. I will try that.
The word prediction box, yeah. So another thing which I had an incorrect assumption for a lot of my kids that I had my prediction box set for 5 for Read and Write and co-writer, and last year I was lucky enough to go to a workshop for literacy for students with AAC needs or multiple disabilities, and their suggestion really was to have more options available. So I've increased it to most of my kids for 9, because what happens when they really have phonetic spelling issues, it may take longer for it to pop up the less choices I have, which can cause frustration and things like that. So yeah, so I've switched my display over to 9 for all the kids when I'm using word prediction. Not just my more involved kids, but for all the kids. I've switched it over to 9.
So some of the new things, thank you, Laura, for that suggestion there, because that definitely was what was needed. Some of the things that they've added for co-writer is that they've added the ability to switch to a numeric keyboard right from your little blue window here. You can also input information by typing. You can manage your topics, because it used to be like you saw me, you had to go up to your little Chrome extension here to change your topic dictionaries, and you can access the microphone without having that be one of your choices. So if I wanted to change over to my topic, I have a bunch of different topic dictionaries, all based on different evaluations that I've done with kids. So I can turn those on and off right here. I can also have them spoken, if that's what you're hearing. Let's see if I have one on soccer. Yeah, so I've got
soccer.
I can turn that on right from there.
Saudi Arabia.
There we go.
There we go.
So now I move that back,
In.
and now I can start typing, or putting, using my voice. Many students like to play soccer, period. Many students like to play soccer, period. Soccer is a sport that's played on a field with 2 goalposts, period. So you can see from what I put up there that using the read and write, using the co-writer extension, but basically what it's using is using Google voice typing to put in that information, and you can see that it's really accurate. And again, like we were saying before, if you have many students using the same extension, you wouldn't want them to be talking as loud as I am, and you'd want them to have a headset. And then I can also type if I prefer. And the nice thing about the typing is that it really predicts what students are trying to write. So if I make an error, it still is going to give me a choice that's correct. So instead of typing S-O-C, I typed S-O-K, and it still, as one of my choices, gave me soccer. And I can input using the numbers, or I can input using the keyboard, or I can just hover over and select.
Not. A. 1. Gang.
Okay.
Game.
You can also turn the voice off.
Soccer is not a simple game.
So if that's something that's going to interfere and the student doesn't like it, I do have kids that don't like to have the speech feedback for every single thing, but you can adjust that. You can have it speak every word, you can have it speak at the end of a sentence. So there's lots of ways to adjust that. You can also adjust the voice so that you can have different voices that are speaking. So that's co-writer with some of the new features. Let's see if we can get Snap and Read to work.
So I just typed in S-O-K into read and write, and soccer was not an option. And again, that's, if you're lucky enough to have both, that's what you can do side by side. So, while Lisa's getting that to work, have you all used the new Check It feature in read and write? It's a new feature. Literally, I think it must have come up in the last week or so, because I used read and write recently, and it wasn't there. And then when I opened it up a couple of days ago, I'm like, oh dang, look, we've got a new icon here. So check it if you have read and write. You don't even have to highlight your document. If you're in your doc and you click check it, it will underline things that might be not correct. And when you click on them with the right click, it gives you suggestions. Like I have this document that I opened up on transition planning. Why I opened that up, I have no idea. But I had Medicaid written a lot and I did not capitalize it, so I clicked on it and it gives me 4 different options. One of them being the capitalization for Medicaid. DDS, it has no idea what DDS is. Or Dennis. Or let's see if it knows what SSI is. Nope. Doesn't know what that is. But it's a nice feature because I really don't like the spell check in Google Docs. Because it really doesn't, to me it's too basic. I wish they would kind of beef it up a little bit. So I like that this is a new feature added in. It's one of the things I like about Read and Write. When I first got it, it's added so many features since then. Like now the fluency tutor, I was just showing that to a Wilson teacher because a lot of the kids don't like practicing reading in front of somebody else. If they have, reading issues, it's embarrassing. So I was showing her and she started using it for some of her kids. Or, you know, when they do that 1 minute reading sample for fluency, it's a way that a child can do it without having to be in front of somebody, so.
All
Is
right.
it working?
No, Snap and Read is not working, so I'm gonna go to Auto Draw, which is one of the other tools that I wanted to share with you guys today, and we'll figure out what's going on with Snap and Read. Snap and Read is the screen reading portion of the Don Johnston tool. So Read and Write for Google Chrome has them all in one tool. Don Johnston breaks them out into Co-Writer as the writing portion, and Snap and Read is the reading portion. And they have added some new tools to that. But we'll have to figure out why that's not working. We're gonna have to troubleshoot that with Don Johnston. So one of the other things that I wanted to show you is Auto Draw. So what I like about this is that you can search for things. So as I start drawing, and I'm not a great artist, it starts making suggestions for you of what you want to put in there. So if you have a student who's not a great drawer but can approximate something, it will start giving you suggestions.
Oh.
So you can put a better drawing in there. And I thought that this also would be kids who aren't great with keyboarding or maybe aren't as good with the mouse control as other kids. So they could create drawings for their projects using this. And this is a free tool. Because I know too, some kids get frustrated because they can't make the object look the way they want it to, and so they'd rather not do it. But I think this is cool because you can, it'll give you these suggestions and you can add them, and you can also change the colors of them. You can do some other things to them. So if I click on this little tool here, and if I want to fill in, I can change the colors of that. So I can make a real drawing using this tool.
So Lisa, is this an app?
This is a website.
Okay. So is there any way to take those illustrations and pop them into a Google Doc?
I believe there is. So you can download them.
So that's putting it on the hard drive.
Yeah. Or you could put it on your, into your documents. And it saves it as a ping. I mean, Google Docs has a Google Drawing feature, but I find it harder to use.
Okay.
So do you guys want to take a couple minutes to try that? I know you've been watching us do a lot of stuff, so why don't you take a few minutes to give that a try?
Before you do that, seeing Lisa use this a couple of, last year, the year before, I saw a little girl that had extremely poor spelling. She was in 3rd grade, so her handwriting was poor. And so for the worksheets, all the other kids their spelling words were, you know, writing out something, and they were having her draw a picture, which her pictures were just as bad as her handwriting. So when you looked at her work, it did not portray what she was capable of. And this was a little girl that was so enthusiastic. So I was doing word prediction. I think we were doing co-writer. And she's like, wait. And I'm like, oh, what, honey? She's like, well, I have to get a paper and pencil. I'm like, okay. And she's typing, she's coming up with words. And she's like, I've always wanted to be able to know how to spell that, her father's name, her mother's name. Like she left and she had written down, which she really couldn't read her list, but all these words that she always wanted to learn how to spell. So using something like word prediction, we also use voice typing because her phonemic skills are pretty poor. And I'm looking at something like that, what she could produce, which would really be comparable to what she knew. This was a smart little girl, but when you looked at what was being produced, it was really sad. And I have to give her a lot of credit for still being so enthusiastic about learning. Because by the 3rd grade, when kids have failed for that long, a lot of the kids have already lost that joy. So I know we're all here to allow kids to be successful so that they continue to have that joy.
So are you guys all giving auto draw a shot?
Oh, so Laura said she finds refreshing for snap and read is often needed.
Yeah,
Turn off the other extensions. Oh, that's a pain.
it finally did pop up. Just it took forever for the login page to show
So
up.
you could go like this. And do it. I was just moving my finger around. Wait, how would you like, but what if you wanted to go like this?
And then give us some suggestions, yeah.
So that's a shade from, like something, shade. You have to go undo one side.
Those are the pictures you can choose from. Okay, and there's some things I do here.
Yoga people, that was cool.
Cause that's what we would have done. So even for some kids, if they only walked that, they at least got started.
Yes.
I feel like the guy.
I'm so bad at getting suggestions.
Something.
Honestly, that could be a great punchline. You know you're bad when Boardroom doesn't make suggestions.
Yeah, okay, so
What is he gonna do? It's
2 years
3
later,
years.
3 years.
Like third year.
So it's so much nicer when you have it. That's pretty good.
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
So much
better. I think we just have to backdoor whatever we communicate.
It's not giving you suggestions.
No, well, it did, but
Okay.
not as many.
What were you trying to draw?
Yeah, it's not as elaborate as hers.
Well, she has a circle, so.
Oh, okay.
How do you mean the, on the left side, is it just
It's not adding the features for me, probably.
So somebody over here got a really cool picture though.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
They had the Eiffel Tower. There you go.
Wow.
There we go.
So what did you, what did it start off as, like when you were
You have to
growing up?
just do like there was a circle, I think, and then a thumb circle.
Ah.
What were you trying to draw?
I was just kind of freehanding.
Oh, until you were just waiting to see what would come up?
Yeah. You got a flamingo when you drew it.
I'm
getting grooves.
Mine is like regular circles.
I got the actual characteristics, but it doesn't give you more options.
Yeah,
Like when I start drawing an eye, I was hoping to give you that. Right, you know,
Yeah, trying.
would know what to look at, put it on their body.
Let's see, the whole spatial.
Yeah.
It's kinda
I'm
cute
gonna
though.
use an ocean language is cute book.
Look
I mean, the tail gave it away.
Yeah.
I like your outfit.
Thanks, it wasn't mine.
Nobody has to
Well, I
know
guess it
that.
was, yeah.
I'm not really gonna
Took a bite out of the cookie.
Anybody else want to share their drawings?
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, you took a, did you draw that or did it give that to you as a
That
suggestion?
gave me the suggestion when I tried to draw a person.
Oh,
Because
okay.
sometimes, you know, they don't have a lot of
Yeah.
options, I think.
Like when I started, actually,
That's exactly.
yeah.
Oh, there we go.
What are these things? Then you can fill it, yeah.
I don't know. That's so fun.
Yeah, that's kinda cool.
Keyboard?
Well, let me know about your turtle.
No.
No, it's
Drawing
just
fan.
keyboards across the top.
Oh, I want the turtle.
Okay, yeah.
I'll get it back.
So you can resize it.
I'll do that.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe not.
It's not letting me, I'm wondering if it's because it's,
Yes.
I'm on an iPad,
Yeah.
whereas I think
Oh.
my
Yeah.
phone, and they
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
have it on.
So are people noticing a difference in functionality between devices? Like, are you finding that it works better on a laptop versus an iPad versus a Chromebook?
The touchscreen's just so much better.
Yeah.
A little more
Yeah.
accurate.
Right.
Ah, there you go. You
Yeah, there
could.
you go.
Yeah, you kind of got your hold on
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
Oh, well.
But you can resize. You can rotate. You can.
Now it's gone.
It's broken. Helmet, football helmet.
Can you think of any other ways that you might be able to use this?
I was thinking reinforcement, just, I could find a bunch of kids on my kids who would love to do this, or doing this.
Yeah. To create a drawing.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Anybody else? All right, so that's auto draw. So now that I've shut down Co-Writer and refreshed and signed in, my Snap and Read screen did come up. So the new things that Snap and Read added was you can see the outlines that you've created, because one of the features is to create outlines over here. You can see the ones that I've done with students over here, so now I can see them at the same time. Let me add one about this topic.
So this is one of my favorite things about Snap and Read. The fact that we can be working on an outline at the same time.
So if I go back up to my little screen there, oh, my outline is already showing. So now I have my text that I'm looking at the same time, and I can move around back and forth through that. So I can use all these tools. I can also remove distractions. So if it's a really busy page that the student is working on, I can eliminate those distractions to simplify the page. This is just moving really slow, so I can also open a PDF if I want to work on a PDF. It's thinking.
So one of the suggestions from the last draw one from Sue Nicholas was, one teacher said you could use it for following directions. I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea for, one student giving others directions, or you giving the student directions. So, yeah.
With AutoDraw?
Yeah.
Oh, neat. Yeah, that's a great idea.
That is a good idea.
So, just like Read and Write for Google Chrome's, Snap and Read allows you to have text read aloud.
Contrary to popular belief, Thomas Edison was not born into poverty in a backwater Midwestern town.
No.
Actually, he was born on February 11, 1847, to middle-class parents in the bustling port of Milan, Ohio, a community that, next to Odessa, Russia, was the largest wheat shipping center in the world.
So I can turn that on and off, and you see it has just like Read and Write for Google Chrome, it has the highlighting of text as the text is read aloud, and that's a really important feature.
Yeah.
So we want to have that text highlighted as it's read aloud. Students really benefit from that. The other thing that you can do with this that is a little trickier in Read and Write for Google Chrome is you can level this text using this little tool over here. So if I highlight the text, I'm going to hide my outline. I don't want to see that right now. I can level this and make it easier to read. So it uses the tool, the same functions that you would use in Rewordify. Have you guys ever used Rewordify? You should probably take a look at that. So I see some people nodding their head. How many people have used Rewordify? Okay. So maybe what we'll do then is break up into some groups so you can take a look at that once I've shown you this.
It normally does not take this long.
No, it doesn't.
It would in our district.
Yeah, it seems
probably
like
never happened.
It seems like, I don't know what it is, but everywhere I go, it seems like the Wi-Fi is slower and slower.
I kind of wonder now that they've passed that net neutrality law, because I notice at my house, that my Wi-Fi has slowed down.
Me too.
Quite a bit.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And here I was thinking it was Comcast.
No, and I have Frontier. I really think it is that, because now they're gonna charge us more money to have faster internet.
So we're going forward, we gotta go backwards.
Yeah.
Crash completely. It's all these kids.
I'm a little scared at how far back we're going.
I know. But why would they do that after middle school? That made no sense.
So what this would do, oh, finally. So what it did was here, in this original text, it originally said contrary, so it changed that to opposite. And where it said backwater, it says quiet or unimportant. Vibrant was changed to full of life. Preeminence was changed to fame and power. So you can change the complexity a little bit, but it does make the text easier to read. And the nice thing is that anywhere the word was changed, they changed the text to italics. Thank you. And you can also see the original word and the word that it's been changed to. So if I level it, then I can still go back and have it read to me.
Opposite to popular belief, Thomas Edison was not born into poorness in a quiet/unimportant Midwestern town.
And usually it holds together pretty well. It didn't do so great there with changing poverty to poorness. Usually the meaning of the text holds together pretty well. The other thing that I can do is I can now translate this. Although I don't see my translate tool is not lit up. Let me turn that one off. There we go. So now I can also translate this text. So if you have students who are English language learners, you want all that. So whatever I had it set to, I must have had it set to Italian. So now it changed that to Italian. And again, if I want to have it read aloud in Italian.
Sorprendentemente, il piccolo Alevison, che fu l'ultimo di 7 figli nella sua famiglia, non ha imparato a parlare fino a quando non aveva quasi 4 anni.
So that's a really great feature to have for kids who are learning another language, and it allows them to switch back and forth between English and their first language so that they can learn vocabulary and still get the meaning of the text. And so let's see if I can get the feature where you can open a PDF, although I don't know if I have a PDF on here.
Do you have any idea what this costs?
It's about $100 per
so
student.
it's kind of like read and write, where you're buying, whether you're buying a license for one kid, but it's a subscription, so it's a yearly. It's not $100 forever, unfortunately, and everything's going that way, unfortunately.
The nice thing is about any of these things, so if this is something that more than one student can benefit from, the more licenses you buy, the more the price changes. And Don Johnston is good about that, and so is Text Help actually, about
working with you to come up with affordable issues. Like I just discussed with them, I go to a small special ed school on a regular basis where we only have 60 kids at the school. So when we are looking at licensing, you know, the options they have for that few seats is pretty expensive. And when I talk to Text Help, they're like, oh, we can work with you. We're a school-wide license. I think it's going to be about $500, which to me is very reasonable, because once you get, I think an individual license is like $150 or something like that. So once you get more than a couple of kids, you might as well make it available to the whole district. But I do find, I mean, both of the companies, Don Johnson definitely, that they're there for the students. I mean, that's why the companies were founded, so I do find them very good to work with. And if you talk about, like, the co-writer and Snap and Read, if you're using it for workshops and things like that, they're pretty good about giving out licenses for free. Like, oh, that one we might be paying for. I don't know. I know they've given us quite a few.
Yeah, they've been really generous with us. because we do use it so much in our evaluations, and we're demonstrating it to all of you here, so.
Oh, gee, thanks, Lisa.
So what I wanted to show you is I wanted to show you how one of the new features will remove distractions. So it's probably going to take a few minutes to do this, but another extension didn't Readability do that as well?
Mm-hmm.
There's also an Evernote extension that would do the same thing. So any extraneous information that was on the page, if you turn on the extension, it'll take all that extraneous information out so that the student only has the text there that they can see. And that's really helpful if kids are overwhelmed by lots of information on the page, or if they get easily distracted and are prone to clicking on other things. So this will really take all those other things off and just leave the text there. But it looks like this is going to be super, super slow. And it also has an option, if you look underneath, you can open a PDF from your Google Drive or from your computer, and you can do lots of annotating on that using these two extensions. So again, even though they're not free, I prefer Snap and Read and Co-Writer together. I do a lot of evaluations for kids who have reading difficulties, and I just find that while Read and Write for Google Chrome is great, I think there's more for kids who have reading difficulties in both Snap and Read and Co-Writer. So I end up recommending them a lot, and I'm sure I frustrate districts because some districts, like you guys, already have Read and Write for Google Chrome. But this is why when we do an assistive technology evaluation for kids, even though one tool might be available in the district, it may not be the best tool for the student. So we need to make sure we look at those features and make sure they match with what the student needs.
So another extension for removing distractions that works pretty quickly is Clearly. Clearly.
Yeah, this just looks like it's
that
just
allows you to
spin
clip it to Evernote if you want to highlight and to do some annotations.
Yeah, that's the Evernote extension, Clearly. Okay. So we have about 15 minutes left before we have you do the evaluation. So I want to give you a chance to work in some small groups.
Readability is no longer available, thank you. So Mercury Reader is. Thanks, that's right. So Lisa had mentioned readability before, and yes.
So we want to give you time to try some of these in more depth, and you can use our devices if you want, except for the one that's connected to the chat for the live stream, because we're answering questions for people. So if I can go back into our PowerPoint today, you can see what your options are. You also should have gotten a link to our documents. One is Tools in Chrome for Reading and Writing, and Carol Ann has one for math resources.
So both of those links I put in the PowerPoint. So there's a bit.ly at the end for a handout that Nicole and I have been working on forever, on slide 22 on AT supports in Chrome, and that's the link to the free resources for Read and Write for students. So that has like pages and pages, but Rewordify is one of the resources in there. And if you haven't tried Rewordify, I suggest you try it. Lisa and I can walk around and give you support, but Rewordify is one of my absolutely favorite resources. And I've had like late high school and college kids that I'll show them Rewordify, and they're like, oh my God, I could use that now. You know, if they have access to electronic textbooks and things like that, so.
That app, Too Long Don't Read, TLDR.
Yes.
Does that work again? For a long time it
It
didn't
was,
work.
yeah.
Was it down?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was disabled, discontinued, yeah. Yeah, I loved that.
Yes.
Yeah, too long, don't read it, whatever, yeah. There are other free auto summary tools,
Right.
and I'm pretty sure that our handout, Wanda, has inclusion of several.
Okay.
Like, I think one is auto summary or things like that, but there are text compactors, another one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are some of the examples of things that you can try and play with. And so if you want to take a look at Rewordify, that's just a website. You can go to rewordify.com, and maybe Carol Ann, if you want to sit with Carol Ann to do that. If you want to look in more at either Equatio, Snap and Read, Co-Writer, or Read and Write for Google Chrome, you can look at it on the Pixel Book. Or you can take a look at the Chrome supports that we have on the Bitleys. So we want to give you a little time, and while you're looking, what we would like to do is share out a little bit the name, what you found, how did it work, and what the pros and cons are. So we want to give you a little time to explore on your own.
So, before we explore, I apologize. It says more AT supports in Chrome. It's just more AT supports. The link to that was Free Assistive Technologies web-based support, so it's not just Chrome-based.
Yeah, there's all kinds of supports, but there is some of those that are work in Chrome.
They all work in Chrome. Oh, did I link it to the wrong handout?
Yeah.
All right, hold
I'm
that.
like, I don't know if
You've got a link to an AAC
That's
handout.
what came up when I clicked it too.
Yeah. All right, so it was the AC. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was like, well,
Oh,
this is
you know,
interesting.
for some reason, Bitly. Yeah, that was a workshop I did over the summer. It's not that Bitly. For some reason, Bitly is not taking my new pasted links. It's yes. So I thank you for figuring that out.
I don't know if I figured it out because I was still reading the slides.
So how many people are taking a look at Rewordify? So when you're in Rewordify, there is a demo at the top right-hand side of the website. And if you're going to take a look at Rewordify, I strongly recommend that you take the time to look at that demo, because there's tons and tons of information and tools that you can use when you use Rewordify that you won't just figure out on your own. So when you open up Rewordify, the top right, there's a little ribbon across the top in gray, and it says demo, and it'll just walk you through how this whole website works, and I strongly recommend that you do that demo. Does anybody want to take a look at any of the extensions on the Pixel Book?
Yeah, I would like to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me know if you need any.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Oh, thank you for letting me use your charger.
Oh, no problem.
I'm gonna go find the evaluations.
Simplify. Does anybody have, other than Bitly, a good shortened URL site? I've just tried 2 other sites and they didn't work.
Carolyn, I gotta go upstairs, there's no evals down here.
Okay, thank you.
Retention.
Should not do that. Look at this high school data. We may have to put summary say if there's something like news or moods or something like that. I forget what it was, but we would, if the kids had an article, we could get it online. We could take the whole thing and put it in there and put different parameters and how simple it makes it. It doesn't have to get super loud, but for some of the kids it's important.
Yeah, it's minus 2 years as well.
So if you refresh your slides, the new bit.ly will take you to that handout. I apologize for that. So did anyone want to see Rewordify? Teachers, I love you too, Liam.
Oh, there's it.
People here, who works with more significantly involved students?
I think now, low cognitive, but
More
not
significantly
like
involved.
super like motoric. Yeah, we don't have a lot of mobility issues.
Okay, but, so the way that, one of the ways I've used Rewordify, like literally right during lessons when I'm observing kids, is I may go on like simple Wikipedia for whatever topic they're doing. Copy information from that, paste it in Rewordify at the lowest level, and then either from Rewordify you can have the text-to-speech features and read and write will work in Rewordify. Rewordify also has a whole slew of classic literature that's already been reworded. If it's too much text for my kid, I'll copy it and I'll paste it into like one of the auto summary features, and so I'll have it summarized. If that's still too much for my kids, they won't be able to read it or they need picture support, then I'll just copy that information and I'll paste it into the Symbol tool in BoardMaker Online and print that out or use it online. So it's a way for me to use a combination of tools and in less than 5 minutes adapt something to be of a lower complexity level, but it's still the same topic that the other kids might be using, and it will give my students text-to-speech and picture support. But Rewordify, for many, many of my students, is one of my favorite tools. And when I go into the classic literature, I was in a class the other day and they were reading some Shakespeare book. And I said to the teacher, look, I know that happens to be one of the books that's already reworded in Rewordify under classic literature. So for a lot of the students in Rewordify, one of the views you can have is the reworded one and the original one showing at the same time. And for many of my students, they liked that, but still the text-to-speech and read and write, which is free for all students, that works in any of the views I've had on Rewordify. I know Lisa said that clap was wrong earlier and it just didn't connect with me.
So I know Jeanette handed out the evaluation, but before you go, I don't want you to, I want to find out what did you try and what did you think of it. So what tools did you try?
As well as any other tools you know about that you would share with us.
I tried a
Equatio. I never know how to say that.
Yeah.
I thought I used it, obviously it's a Google Chrome. It was good, it did more complex math, which is what I'm working on.
Yes.
I had trouble figuring out how to get the graphs to work. Then I tried to YouTube video it like I do everything.
Yes.
And I couldn't find a lot on it, and it would just like look more for equations, so I don't know if there's a lot or if I was just not effective in my searching, but
there are a lot of videos, and I actually have an email.
Because I think Text Help sent out video supports when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
So you might, for that, go on the Text Help site.
Yeah, they did have help and support. I didn't get there yet.
Okay.
Yeah, there's even an Equatio certification program. I can take that link and stick it onto the PowerPoint.
So I do, it's, you know, up until recently, there's been very little support for kids with handwriting issues with math. So when that came out, it initially came out as just for lower level math, and my mind's blanking out as to the name of the extension. But it did, and you could have voice input. And it worked great for addition and subtraction, so saying like 2 + 2 = 4 and then insert equation. But then when you got to division and multiplication, for some reason it just gave you wackadoodle types of input. But since the update, because one of the issues was, it was Math Talk, I think it was that it didn't do higher level math. So it's pretty cool to see this that can handle like algebraic functions and things like that.
So what I'm doing is, I got an email from Text Help, so they might send this to you after you sign up for Equatio and get it free. They sent me an email in the beginning of October that has an Equatio certification program with on-demand training. So I embedded the link in the PowerPoint for that. They also have lesson plans for teaching the students how to use Equatio. So I'm gonna include the link for that as well. And what I did was I just added a new slide to the PowerPoint, and I'm just putting those links in there. So we got Equatio. What else did you try?
I tried Rewordify.
And what did you think?
I liked it. I went through the little demo session, and went through the little quiz at the end, and I liked how you could pick your own words. You could make it just a couple or a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So just so you know, Rewordify also has like a teacher support feature where you can make quizzes or multiple choice or things like that using the words that were reworded. So I did not know that for a while, and then I clicked on that button, and I'm like, oh wow, you know, this does even more. Rewordify was created by teachers, and you can tell. I think they did a great job.
Yeah, and if you sign up, there's a spot there on Rewordify to sign up for a free account. That allows you to save anything that you create and export quizzes and things like that. So it's worth it to and I think they just ask you for an email address and a password, and you can sign up for an account on Rewordify. Anything else? Did anybody else try something different?
I like the number of picks. You know, we're trying to have kids move those manipulatives together. It takes them apart and teaching them like that place value. And yes,
excellent.
I enjoyed using that.
Good.
Good. All right. So let's just take a look at our goals for today. Make sure we covered everything that we were supposed to. Oops, as I not pull the cord out of the wall. So we were going to explore assistive technology supports available in Google Chrome, investigate assistive technology using the Pixelbook, and look at supports that can be used on a laptop, a Chromebook, or a Pixelbook. Did we get to all of that? All right. So if you don't have any questions, fill out your evaluation form, and you're free to go. And
I do ask, or we ask that link that you were sent for the form for possible future topics and for purchases for the lending library, please fill that out because that really drives what we do. And often when we send out the links, we only get a couple of responses. So
right, and the link is embedded into the PowerPoint too. It's like right at the beginning of it.
A few years ago.
Can you just speak louder, sorry?
A few years ago, I was at one of these and we talked about like portable things that people could carry around to help them read. So it was for non-readers, but high school transition age kids more. So like, I remember there was one thing that you could hold up and it would read a medicine bottle that was circular somehow.
So things like the CN or
right, some of those kinds of things I'd like to practice.
Like
because I know we haven't all done that.
So that would be a great thing. So on the form, there's also, if you go on the bottom, others. So please put that in. But that's a great, I mean, in the past, you're right, we've done like stations where we've had like different tables of tools. So that might be a good thing to do, but specifically write like, you know, tools like the reading pen or
right, it was for the non-readers that either
teacher
supported or
yeah.
executive functioning, like read your list on your refrigerator, your daily medications, some of those kinds of things.
This is the link you're talking about, right? This is
yes.
Okay, so how do I get it?
Oh. Oh, look at that. You get to see the bit.ly for the link.
Maybe it's just because it's the iPad, so it's not letting me click it.
Did it let you click the others?
It did, yeah.
Okay.
It's at the beginning.
The page slide 3.
Thanks. Oh yeah, it looks like it's not a live.
Is there something missing from it?
It's not a live link. Yeah. Okay, we did not make that bit.ly.
Nicole did, so let me,
so we'll email Nicole because we didn't make that bit.ly, so I'm not sure what the original form website is, but she'll change that in the PowerPoint. So once we get it, we'll probably have Jeanette send it out also to the directors and, yeah. But thank you for checking that.
Carolyn, do you have CEUs for the ASHA folks here?
We never have CEUs for ASHA because you have to pay for every workshop. We can, and we didn't get it for this, but we have a generic certificate of attendance, which we did not have filled out or yet. We can ask Jeanette to bring some down, and I have submitted those for ASHA in the past, but you just pop Jeanette an email or.
So when you're all set, if you don't have any other questions, if you want to leave your evaluation on the table outside, you're all set. And we'll work on that other stuff. Carol Ann's sending an email right now to Jeanette about the CEUs. Is there anything else you need from us?
Does the lending library have tests like the scan or anything like that, or is it just
does it have
technology?
It's just the AT. Yeah, it does, yeah. We do
like
have a test lending library, but it's just for correct staff.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Thanks for your patience with our technology issues. To figure out how to resolve this. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
I always feel like I sound here, he's here, so I always they injected mine with this awareness, so it works.
So Karen, I just sent the email. I'll actually run upstairs to see if she has them. So is it Does anybody else want a blank certificate of attendance?
I would like.
Got it. So that means you have to hang here for a few minutes. But thank you for suggesting that, because we'll have,
Oh my goodness, no worries. It's nice to officially meet you. Thank you. I'll toss that. Are you done?
Oh, I'm done, thank you.